Let's all rise and have unison prayer. Harimbo, Chapumurame, Sagade, Kimbe, Bro, our most beloved Heavenly Parents, today, the 8th of March, 2014, we pray for our true mother, who's now back in the United States of America yesterday in Las Vegas. We pray for our true Father, that He can always guide us, always, even today in Hoon Dok Hae. And we pray for the true children, true grandchildren, and all the members that are taking care of our true mother and the true family. We pray for our leaders, especially our continental leader, Archbishop Kim and family. And we pray for our national leader, Reverend Dr. Michael Malcolm, and the newly installed UPF president here in North America, Richard Sena. We pray for his success. We pray for also the ACLC leadership here in America and all the leaders all over the world. We pray that they can bring in a lot of religious people who have their own congregation and they are centers of influence of these people, and bring them to your presence this year, our Heavenly Parents. We pray for all the districts and regions, especially here in District 1. We pray that our leaders, our co-directors, Reverend Ernest and Keiko Patton, will have success, and we pray as well for all the pastors in the Mid-Atlantic area under him. Reverend Akira Ota in Norfolk, Father Adrian Bayo in Richmond, Virginia, and in Towson, Reverend James Stewart, and in Northern Virginia, we pray for Ms. LeJune, and we pray for Reverend Millen Stephens and his wife, and his co-pastors like Ms. Jones in Maryland, that they too can surpass their goals. And we pray here in Washington Family Church, our own pastor, Reverend Xavier Oliver, his wife Fumi-san, and daughter Brianna. We pray for unity. We pray for ways to really bring in a lot of people that is already ready there outside of this church. And we pray that we can continue to really strive on to beam this unification seal all over the world. Even though physically it's not there, we pray that we can virtually see it always as a guiding light for many of us, and physically even guide members who are lost, just like me when I first came here in Washington, D.C. in year 2001. I came to this place after 4 hours of search by seeing the unification seal up on this church. And I pray for Heavenly Parents that we can always bring all the good things and these people who need most of your words and your wisdom and the divine principle and your love. And we pray all of this in all our names and in my name. Athanasius Francis T. Catalan, blessed simple family, our Jew, our Jew. Good morning. You got our video back. And we're still reading The Way of Unification in God's Providence. We're now on page 324. Our plan for the Moscow rally. God is working with the principle of being hit and then taking over afterwards. Whenever I went to prison, our church went up by one stage. When I came out from Danbury, American people as well as religious people welcomed me. Is this a going up or going down? We have been going up all the time. If I come out of a Moscow prison, then perhaps we will rise up directly to heaven. The Moscow rally will be accomplished very soon. I establish the Summit Club. I plan to bring about 50 former heads of states to meet Gorbachev. Soviet leaders will have to welcome the Summit Club. It will be there as one of the chairmen. When I met Gorbachev, I will persuade him. Do you think I will be persuaded or he will be persuaded? There has been no record retreat in my life. So far, I have been pushing forwards against all the storms of the world. I have fought with 240 million Americans and finally won. The plaintiff was the USA and the defendant Reverend Moon. Now, as far as American culture remains in history, they will have to kneel down to Reverend Moon. This was on January 1st, 88. My prayer is already made into a formula. I don't pray much. When I just close my eyes and pray, heaven already comes. So I just keep running for God's will. I run more than pray and act more than think. So far, I have been paving the way to go to the Summit Conference. If we bring about 50 former heads of states and I go as their chairman, they will have to accept us. Could they reject us? We can make an academy connecting professors from satellite countries such as Poland. We can connect world-renowned artists. I connected famous ballerinas and established the Universal Ballet. If we keep connecting people, all the Soviet people will be influenced by me. Now is the time to restore the communist bloc. Since I declare declared a Moscow rally, I organized the science conference as a preparation to go there. After establishing an association of small nations and an association of former heads of states, I will visit Moscow with 50 heads of states as the chairman. Then Brezhnev will have to accept us. Then we can bring a mobilization team of a few thousand and do a rally there. We will do it with the presence of Soviet police. We're now on page 325. So I'm preparing for such thing. Let's see if it works or not. Because I talk about these things, many people in our country say that we go beyond national interest to talk about international issues. They say that even 10 years ago, they thought that it was a dream, but now it is right. 86, January 1. There may come a period of political confusion before Korea sees unification. Especially, I see that this period will substantially emerge after the Seoul Olympics. Just as darkness precedes the bright morning, the political situation will become chaotic. World politics will be entangled and unraveled, centering on Korea. By the end of the Olympics, relationship with the East European Communist bloc will be established, and through this communist influence will also come along. Then the atmosphere for South and North unification will mature, and unification through a South and North generated election will be discussed. Since there is tension and hard feelings between the ruling party and the opposite parties, however, they cannot actively respond together to the rapidly changing international situation. This may result in Korea's loss of leadership in the unification process. Then the people will be greatly confused. Still on page 325, section 4, unification for South and North Korea through elections. Number 1, the time for a general election in South and North Korea will come. What kind of issues does Korea have to deal with from now on? The presidential elections and the elections for senators both can be issues to deal with, but they are not important issues. There is more important issue. In the UN's General Conference, they selected the Korean issue as its subject and discussed the general election with South and North Korea under their surveillance. Until now, North Korea was refused that. However, when they have assurance that they will accomplish their plan and goal after reinforcing underground organizations in South Korea, I'm sure that they will say, let's have the election. Then, how can we deal with this? What the Unification Church has to worry about is how to deal with this. For that reason, it is more critical to promote a national movement to prepare for the general election with South and North Korea, that the coming presidential election, I believe that Kim Il-sung will assert the general election with a peace offensive ahead after this 1988 Olympics. The speech was January 21st, 1986. Look, the time for the general election with South and North Korea will come soon. It is wanted by China, by Japan, by US, and by Soviet Russia. We're now on page 326. The political regime of North Korea retreated to the corner of the communist bloc by the Olympic participation of the USSR, China, and the satellite countries. It is exactly God's providence in Kim Il-sung's generation. They have never retreated this much. The political situation is even more difficult than the time of the defeat in June 25 incident of Korea. Being kicked out by the USSR, by China, and by satellite countries, and being pushed into the corner by the world media, they are in such a miserable situation. Therefore, they might commit provoking acts since they are in bad shape. They might try recklessly to communize South Korea before the Olympics are over. My present strategy is to disconnect them even from communist parties. Therefore, we must know that a dangerous time is coming up to us now. If Kim Il-sung doesn't commit any provoking acts, and he thinks that it will be difficult to accomplish, he will suggest the general election. How will then Kim Il-sung feel when China, the USSR, and the satellite countries visit Korea for the Olympics and elections goes well in South Korea? He will urge the communist countries to open their boundaries and visit each other and say, let's have the general election. Under the USSR support and China's protection, the US and Japan will support them more than anyone, because they will be able to sell their products for double if it happens. When the time of God's providence comes completely, North Korean communists have no way but to be absorbed. You have to know that we will confront such a critical situation immediately. We have to hurry to prepare for the time. If we don't prepare, South Korea will be destroyed. I knew the time would come, and I have been preparing for 10 years for that. You must now know these facts clearly. In June 2, 1988. In the light of international political moves, how should South Korea unite South and North Korea? I see that it will be done by a general election. China wants it, the US wants it, Japan wants it, and even the USSR wants it. For them to be able to come to the 1988 Olympics, they don't want any unnecessary incidents. We have to be serious about preparing for that. Do you understand? Yes, we should be able to do that since we know the time, shouldn't we? When we consider Kim Il-sung's nature, he will think, forget it. Neither China nor the USSR is reliable. We should make a surprise attack to South Korea and conquer it. If he can't make an attack, he will urge the general election. If he suggests that the general election, the USSR will like the idea. China will like it, and US and Japan will like it too. There is no way to avoid the flow. Therefore, what is important this year is to create the unification of South and North Korea, January the 3rd, 1988. We're now on page 327. Now, people in front of Kim Il-sung are ready to turn around and to get out of there over the 38th parallel. People in the South are tired of watching political fights or parties fight, and they want to turn around to get out of there. Where can they go? They should go to North Korea. People in the North put their backs toward the South and are trying to walk backwards. And people in the South are trying to walk backwards to go to the North. If both of them start the unification movement together in the 38th parallel instead of fighting, when they meet there, things are moving toward that direction. When we consider all of them, it is very likely that Kim Il-sung will urge a general election. What can we do then? If South Korea says, let's have it in 3 months, they will say, it's fine in the beginning. But later they will try to control the situation, suggesting that to have it in 2 months, 1 month and 20 days. The compromising term will be 40 days. It will be less than 2 months. They will say that we should have the general election in 40 days. Then 20 million in North Korea will all be Kim Il-sung's number 1 batters. How about the people in the South? We will see many fellows who are in the gray area. At that time, we will be needed. We will be needed at that time. Number 2, stance of the surrounding countries. The USSR is trying hard to change the nature of their structure now as that Gorbachev is approaching far Asian countries with friendly gestures. Gorbachev will propagate that his country is a friendly country at the Seoul Olympics and try to show peaceful gestures, especially to the US. Gorbachev will suggest that the US let them have a general election for the unification of Korea. When the US receives such a suggestion, they will agree with it, because the US knows that students, the office, and separated families in Korea want the plan fervently. They can't refuse to agree with it, though they may feel uneasy about it. Here, the problem is that the US military's withdrawal has to take place first. People in Korea are in favor of the US withdrawal nowadays. It is because the US treats Korea as a subordinate country and even interfere the internal affairs. Along with Gorbachev's suggestion for general election with South and North Korea, because of the anti-American movement, the US military will have to withdraw. It is obvious that the Korean government will be in chaos when they receive a suggestion for general election. The Democrat and the Republican are two parties in the US, and the Democrat is asserting the withdrawal. They'll think that the USSR's suggestion is a good opportunity to make the withdrawal from Korea in honor, so that they will withdraw. If the candidate from the Democrats become president this time, it will be obvious. If the Democrat makes president even without the USSR suggestion, they will withdraw the military. Maybe not completely, but definitely part of it. After the Second World War, the US helped many countries as a part of the policy to support foreign countries for 40 years. The problem is that it will be recorded as the diplomatic failure of the US if the military withdraws because of anti-American movement. And the influence of the US in the international society will be minimized for that. Therefore, there is no doubt that they will withdraw the military. Also, they will be optimistic about the result of the general election, because the population in South Korea is twice as much as in North Korea. When the USSR suggests the South and North unification plan through the general election and the US agrees with it, North Korea won't have any choice but to accept it. They are not powerful enough to refuse the USSR, and they don't want to be isolated in the world. This was a speech in May 1, 1988. When we consider the political stances of South and North Korea, the US, Japan, and China, no one wants to fight for that. They don't want to fight. For that reason, it is clear that these three countries will be combined to coach Korea to establish their government peacefully. We never know when it will happen. The US wants it to happen soon, Japan wants it to happen soon, and China wants it to happen soon. North Korea used to have the forums for discussion, but they closed them out. The time will come when they have no choice but to resume the forums by the pressure of the international climate. Circumstances surrounding Korea are heading for unification, except for the political relationship in the field of sports, culture, and economy. The wall of the ideology has crumbled. Many Korean corporations are busy launching their businesses in China and in the USSR, and the Eastern Europe bloc has started their full-scale interchanges. Some business entities have already finalized the trade contracts. History is changing rapidly. The time when Kim Il-sung was actively involved with a political movement centering on the communist countries is over. Today's world history is heading for a peaceful era. However, true peace will finally return only after the liberation in January 7, 1988. So is there anybody who wants to share about our reading today that ends our Hoon Dok Hae? We have a new topic tomorrow. Number 3, we who are responsible for the nation, on page 328. Today we started on page 324. It's also number 4, our plan for the Moscow rally. So is there anybody who wants to share about our reading today?
Good morning, this is Diane.
Yes, Diane.
These are very important words that Father speaks.
That's right.
And especially dramatic with the current issues in Ukraine, with Russia and Ukraine at this time, as a sort of a reversal of circumstances and politics. That's rather disheartening. Would you want to comment? Can someone comment on the change in our current times?
Yes, anyone?
In other words, when many of us attended service and education projects in the Crimea, 14 campsites on the Black Sea. There were 300 staff for 3,000 students, ages 16 to 30, everywhere from Moscow to Vladivostok, every kind of ethnicity, Korean, Russian, Afro-Russian, a wonderful group of young people who spoke perfect English, but had absolutely no material wealth, threadbare clothes. They had never seen wristwatches or headphones before, but then they wanted to know how to build a new country. That was in the 1990s, just after the coup. And then, as you recall, other groups went over to Lithuania, other areas of the CIS, Commonwealth of Independent States.
That's right.
Now, it seems, and with all of the good work that we did there seems to be a reversal that Russia wants to somehow aggress in the Ukraine. And after the Olympics, it's especially shocking that there would be this kind of military aggression.
That's right.
Does anyone have any comments on this point? Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Yes.
This is Randy.
Yes, Randy.
Hi.
Good morning.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that the leadership in Russia still has seeds of aggression and remnants of Marxism, even though they're not outwardly practicing it. There still seems to be some repression going on there under the current government. It's not overt, and it seems to be just in certain areas. And Putin also has stated that, for instance, in the certain areas where there were uprisings by the Muslims, that he wasn't going to allow any other subculture to dominate, Russian politics, because that's their own affairs. So I'm not saying that the Muslims are causing this in Ukraine, but I think that it's a reaction by the Moscow government against any sort of form of independence that the people are looking for. But it's puzzling why they would be doing that now. And I had a comment about we were talking that last part of this morning. One of the guys was talking about elections in Korea. You know, the Korean War was launched just before a general election was called in Korea that would have been supervised by the United Nations.
That's right.
They weren't ready for it, but they were preparing for it. And the Korean War happened to block that. That was the communist attempt to take over the country by force, because I think they realized that they could not win in a general election. They were outnumbered by the South. And that problem never was resolved. So we're still deadlocked after all these years, and things really really, in some ways, haven't really changed that much in North Korea. That's another issue that to me is just kind of puzzling. But at the same time, it's communist theory at work. They still believe that revolution happens by violence and by force.
Mm-hmm.
So that issue of a general election in Korea will come up again, but not yet. It's not ready for it. But I believe that is how the 38th parallel is going to be dissolved.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also amazing that the book we're reading now is the unification of North, South, East, West. Well, the East-West unification occurred in Germany, and everybody in the world thought that Korea was going to follow that model, but it didn't. So that's again, our work in Korea is critical, and at times when we see these bizarre incidents happen, like the sinking of the Chonan, or even recently Kim Jong-un executed his uncle, launching missiles and this and that. You wonder what in the world is going on with these people.
Yeah,
so it's going to take a lot of spiritual intervention to break their minds down, so that they will be prepared for general reunification, which will probably have to just happen step by step, rather than tearing down a fence like happened in Germany. That's my comment this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Anybody else? And it's surprising that Father says that there will be a withdrawal of the U.S. Because of anti-American movement. So we have Korean brothers who I work with in New York, and we're doing missionary work, and they told me about that kind of sentiment for Koreans even in the Olympics. They always root for Korea also, and I hope this will be happening before 2020, when most people will clamor for an election, because they are already reconnecting or reuniting with their relatives in the north and relatives in the south. As Father mentions here, everybody's turning around. From the north, they are turning around, walking backwards towards the south. And from the south, they're turning around and walking backwards towards the north. And if they stop fighting and they will unite, there will be the reunification of Korea. So, is there anybody else who wants to share about the reading today?
I just got one more comment that as we read through this book, these are words from many years past, and we have seen Father spoke those words before, and we've seen them come true. Mm-hmm. And we're in now, some years past some of these speeches. So I again am reminded daily about the importance of the year 2020 and Vision 2020, because it's all centered on Korea. And that's really the focus of our work. So I think that anything we can do in our own small ways, in our own communities, in our own churches, to contribute toward that centered goal. That's what I think true parents want us to do at this time. And everything that Father did coming to the United States was, and all the work he did around the world, was to shore up and protect Korea. Ultimately, that was one big part of it. Mm-hmm. So I just keep that in the back of my
Yeah, thank you, Randy. But I knew in the 1990s and even in the middle of it, Koreans in the South, they contributed all their goals, the people themselves, to help their country, and money. And that's how their heart is. They want, their country to go beyond the levels that they can attain. So they gather all their silver and gold and donate it to the government. That's kind of, heart that they have. And we pray for them. We help them also. Right now there are many people or families that are reuniting. And the North and South are sitting on a table now, in one table. There are representatives, which is also gunning for the reunification of Korea through reuniting families that are lost since 1950s. So, if there's nobody else, let's all rise and have unison prayer. Our most beloved Heavenly Parents, we are so thankful for this reading today. We pray for the prosperity of Korea, the good health of all the members of the movement, and we pray for all these former leaders that they can rally up also and help the South of Korea to really bring reunification with North Korea, because now it is isolated, as Father said, and they can commit provoking acts like sending or launching their missile to the sea, and it can even go up to Japan, or even beyond Japan, just to show off their prowess and their technology. We pray that it is their last hurrah, that they will succumb to the clamor of the people, that they will have also like a general election that they were trying to make for all the country of Korea. We pray for the present day Ukraine, just like Diane said, in Crimea, now is in the news, going to trying to commit to Russia. But I think the people want, an independent Crimea and even Ukraine itself. We pray that the European countries, Japan, Canada, and the United States would really, of course, has already warned Russia that they'll impose sanctions and everything. And we pray that Putin and his parliament would really wake up and really even pray and think it over about what is going on in the world and in Ukraine. We pray that they will back down, and we pray for the success of the reunification of Korea, and we pray for all our brothers and sisters who are working so hard, that they will be prosperous, that they will be brought to people who can help them. And we pray for everyone, that they can really surpass many things and obstacles. And we pray all of this in all our names and in my name, Athanasius Francis T. Catalan, blessed of family. Aju, Aju, Aju. Uri esonen ton il numero sonen ton il imo sombacio soton il ton il io ora Ikyo esalinen tongil inarachadde tongil iyo so tongil iyo Good morning to you, our beloved true parents of heaven and earth and humankind. Good morning to the true children, the true grandchildren, and to all true brothers and sisters. Good morning, and have a nice weekend. Good morning, Reverend Oliver. Keep warm, it's still cold. Yes. Good morning.